Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for tuning in. You know, tonight we have an amazing show. I'm going to be talking with two entrepreneurs that I actually got to see in action today. And we're going to be talking about self-sabotage. A lot of times we have an inner chatter that's telling us we're not good enough. It's telling us we're never going to make it, or that the economy's tough. And we're going to talk about how defeating that is, and also how to rewire ourselves for success. We're going to be talking with entrepreneur Tanya Chernova and also Joanna Andros. And these gals are absolutely the top of the field when it comes to rewiring yourself for success. Don't go anywhere. We have an amazing show. We'll be right back.
Come experience Nolan's. Savor award-winning steaks, Greek-style cuisine, fresh local seafood, and an extensive choice of wines. Whether you'd like to reserve the large private dining room, enjoy a meal on an outdoor deck, or rock the night away in our lounge, Nolan's, now celebrating 25 years of exceeding your expectations for casual fine dining, live entertainment, and dancing nightly.
Thank you. Welcome back. Thanks for sticking with us. My two guests tonight actually are very successful entrepreneurial women in the field of business. We have Tanya and Joanna. And welcome, girls.
Thanks, Dan.
Or ladies, I should say. You look so good. In fact, I had the privilege of sitting in your event earlier today, which we're going to talk about. But I do have to tell you, I don't know if I told you this earlier, I had a lot of people coming out of the seminar today, just kind of, they were looking like their mind was blown. Like, I just figured out what I've been doing wrong for 20 years. They've had that look in their eyes. They were leaving. But so well done. It was an amazing day.
Thanks.
And first of all, I want to talk to a little bit you both about how you guys came together and what you're doing. How did you guys start off and come together?
That's a really great question. I mean, Joanna and I met very serendipitously along our life journey. I was an entrepreneur and I had a lot of things going. I was already an inspirational speaker, and Joanna was also an entrepreneur, really successful in her field, but we were both really passionate about personal development and transformation. And it was a really defining moment in my life when I met her, because I was ready to reevaluate everything in my life. And Joanna had already been on the path of self-development. Did you want to say something about that?
Just many years, just different experiences in my life that had taken me there. But as I say, as Tanya had said, I'd already been successful in a different field, and then I was moving more into the area of self-help and coaching and working with people, and loved that field. And then that's how brought us together in that area when we started working.
We had a common mission, and so ultimately we created Courageous Living. Courageous Living is an empowerment event company that really empowers people to change their life. And our goal at the time was to help other people do what we'd achieved at that time, which was to create a life we loved. We were really living a life of passion. We chose everything in our lives as it was. And so what we did was we created events to enrich every aspect of a person's life. And we primarily focused on women. And what ended up happening was that over the 7 years that we had this company, we realized that in the vision process of women creating a life they loved, as they were moving along towards their goals, they just could not overcome self-sabotage. Right. Something was really stopping them.
Well, and you know, I know you definitely enriched the lives of many today. It was very apparent when people were leaving. Now, I know you just put out a new book called Undermined, and unfortunately, this is all I could actually show. Undermined, discover the 7 subconscious beliefs that sabotage your life and how to overcome them. And the reason I say this is the only thing I could get a hold of, this card, is because all the books were gone in a matter of minutes today. And the audience, one of the guys coming out of the seminar actually said that it was almost like a fire hazard because they couldn't get any more bodies into the room. So I managed to get my hands on this. But what spurred the book? What brought on, making the decision to put the book out?
I mean, for years, people were telling us to write a book because we were, you know, very powerful speakers and we had a lot of passion around the area of creating a life you love. And Undermined, Discover the 7 Subconscious Beliefs That Sabotage Your Life and How to Overcome Them, really came from a culmination of Joanna's passionate work, you know, in personal development and also as a psychotherapist, and then mine as a corporate speaker, because so many businesses obviously are always training their employees to become better, but then nobody ever really talks about the element of self-sabotage. The aim of this book is to help create awareness for people so that they truly understand what is actually stopping them in their lives and how they can overcome it, very specifically and succinctly with exercises, so that they can look at every area of their life as a person, personal, professional, financial, relationship, and realize this is why I'm getting the results I am, and now how can I change that?
And we found that with all the seminars or workshops that we were doing with people, no matter what we were talking about in every area of a person's life, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, sexually, physically, expressively, financially, whatever, there were always underneath beliefs that they needed to look at. And we started realizing that was the best focus in any of our workshops, because, you know, so many people have the goals, have the capability, the passion, they want to go for it. But the problem is, what's underneath that's hidden there that keeps sabotaging them? And it's those beliefs, the beliefs that I don't deserve it, I'm not worthy, it's not going to happen for me, or it's too scary, or many of the millions and millions of other beliefs. So we thought that is the kind of ugly truth that we really wanted to talk about in this book.
Well, and, you know, the seminar, we talked a little bit about this earlier, that I've been in the seminar business, or was up until a year and a half ago, full-time for 16 years. And in my spare time, my hobby was attending seminars and seeing what else is out there. And I'm an education junkie. I love to learn new things and put them into practice. And I have to say, the seminar that I attended today was definitely the top crest as far as seminars. And, you know, many times I've actually had the privilege of working with some of the big names out there that you expect, like, this is going to be it. And you are let down somewhat. But today I had high hopes, but it was certainly well met and actually surpassed, because it was very top-notch. And of course, many entrepreneurs out there like myself, we've read you know, The Secret, and we know about the laws of attraction, and we know about that there is an element of self-sabotage with everybody. But what's really different about this book? I mean, there's so much of a buzz. I know when you guys launched on Amazon, you were bestsellers in the matter of a few hours. And certainly people are really responding to your message. But what would you say in a nutshell is the big difference between this and something, you know, as The Secret or Think and Grow Rich or something like that?
I would say the difference is a lot of the other, like even when The Secret came out and how powerful that was really powerful for both of us in our lives. But no matter how much I think about what I want, or I could envision it, or have affirmations about it, or talk about it to people that that's what I want, if I had a belief underneath that I'm not worthy of that, or I don't deserve that, or I'm not good enough for that, or that is so scary that there would be something that could happen if I get that dream, no matter what. And really that fell into the movie. It kind of showed you, if you're feeling that way, that's exactly what you're going to attract. So there was a power that was underneath that's hidden. So people thought that they could, you know, watch the movie and say something different and talk about it, or they go to all those seminars and workshops, and it's like, good, I've got all these skills. And
through osmosis, it's just going to change.
Oh, it's going to happen. And plus, now I've got some skills and strategy and everything. But if you are not looking at that inner chatter inside, or the deep, deep hidden, and sometimes it is deeply hidden, because we have this two-way conversation and sometimes don't even realize I'm actually having a two-way conversation, and there's something saying, some part of me in there being very negative, that if we don't tackle that, then this is why we're not going to get the results that we want. And we're like, we have to tackle that subject, and we think that's where it's different than The Secret or a lot of the other speakers. We're going to the stuff that's underneath.
That's
Well, it is, Dan, because you know what, even if you look at Eckhart Tolle or some of the other transformational books that talk about the ego or the inner critic, I mean, everything seems to be focused on this one thing that you're battling. It's you against your ego, etc. But the reality is, when we look at Undermined, we look at the different subconscious beliefs, we realize that there's actually parts of us that are created, right? So it's not just the ego or one inner critic, it's many different layers of us that create the sabotage in our lives.
Well, listen, we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, I want to talk a little bit about PNRT. I know it's a proprietary system you've come up with, and we'll be right back more with Joanna and Tanya, the best selling authors of Undermine. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Come experience Nolan's. Savor award-winning steaks, Greek-style cuisine, fresh local seafood, and an extensive choice of wines. Whether you'd like to reserve the large private dining room, enjoy a meal on an outdoor deck, or rock the night away in our lounge, Nolan's now celebrating 25 years of exceeding your expectations for casual fine dining, live entertainment, and dancing nightly.
Real estate today offers incredible opportunities, low prices, and extremely low interest rates. Hi, I'm Amy Norris from Amy Sells the Beach. Right now, there are opportunities in all areas. Our team can help you put your money to work finding your dream or investment property. And if you're looking to sell, no one can give you better exposure to buyers and make your property stand out. Experience matters when looking for opportunity. I'm Amy Norris. See why we're #1 at amysellsthebeach.com.
Thank you. Welcome back. I'm here with entrepreneur Tanya Chernova and Joanna Andros, the authors of Undermined, Discover the 7 Self-Conscious Beliefs That Sabotage Your Life and How We Can Overcome Them. Thank you so much for, again, sitting with us. Before the break, we were talking a little bit about, we were going to talk about PNRT, but before I get to that, you know, discuss a little bit about self-sabotage. I know during the break we were talking a little bit about it, that you know, it's one thing when somebody sabotages us on our team or competitor sabotages, but most of us have this inner person that we actually are sabotaging ourselves. We have a fear of success or a fear of other things. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, most importantly, I think for people to know is that every single human being has it. Every single person does it to themselves. You know, I think we all try to hide that fact and not really talk about it, but we all are faced with that at some point or another. There is that voice inside of our head or some behavior that we do that we fall into and we're like, why am I doing this again? Right. Why am I not stopping? Or I've got this goal, this whole plan, and it doesn't happen. Or we're procrastinating. Or, you know, out and out just sabotaging and doing something very destructive to ourselves, getting even into addictions or just bad behaviors. All of that are forms of sabotage. And so every human being has it. We knew it was a subject that needed to be talked about because we're always trying to overcome it. How can we stop this? And we knew that we had to get to the source of it. Yeah. Why is it doing this?
And I'm glad you brought up the word addiction. You know, I grew up in a household where there was addiction, and many people, and what you're taught is it's a disease, but really that's not what you're talking about.
We really believe that addiction ultimately is an escape. I mean, whether you're addicted to food or alcohol or drugs or shopping or any of those things, the reality is it's a behavior that's distracting you and helps numb you out from facing pain in your life. And self-sabotage, you know, there's many different sides of it. And ultimately what happens is that self-sabotage is not an act, it's actually a process that really helps us protect ourselves from something that's really scaring us. So for example, if you're an entrepreneur and you have a really big financial goal, but somewhere underneath there, like Joanna talked about, there's a belief that if I make a lot of money, then people will want more from me, or they won't really love me, or business will just take over my life and I'll have to sacrifice my family. If underneath that you have an unconscious or a subconscious belief that you think that, then what'll happen is the more successful you get, the subconscious program will actually start to sabotage you to protect you from the fear or the belief that you fear.
Yeah, and I've seen that a lot in business where I'll be coaching a company or I'll be working with somebody on funding, and they'll literally say to me, you know, my biggest fear is to not grow too fast. I would rather not have growth than grow too fast. I just don't. And I'm thinking, like, what are you talking about? You hire more people. But I understand what you're saying. They're thinking a few steps ahead and saying, I perceive this new situation is going to bring this. And they literally, even though they talk about success, they're making moves to shy away from it. And, you know, I really got a kick out of the seminar today when you were talking about this inner chatter, because, you know, in the cartoons, you see this little angel and this little devil, they're both talking to you saying, don't do this, you know, we're like this and we like that.
Yeah.
But really that's kind of a true thing. You have this inner chatter that you constantly are struggling with.
Exactly. And there's good inner chatter, and we're not talking about that. Keep the good inner chatter. Any little cheerleader that's on your shoulder, you know, telling you that you're doing good, or just, it's a part of us as human beings to assess certain things in our head, and we use that chatter to talk back and forth. But it's when it gets to that negative, limiting belief part, the place where all of a sudden we are truly beating ourselves up, and we hear this over and over again when people don't really want to admit how brutal that voice is inside, saying such derogatory things, or even if it's just simple things like, oh, just don't bother, you know, or later. Just those things. Those are huge sabotaging things. It's like, I'll do it tomorrow.
Yeah, right.
And what's happening? Why is something inside of you saying that when you really have a goal that you know you want to do it today?
That's right.
And that's why there's something underneath we need to look at.
And in the book, we talk about the blueprint of self-sabotage and how this actually, how you even develop this inner chatter, because you're certainly not born with it. And what happens is that there's a defining moment. There's a moment in our childhood and in our life and even in our adult life that actually creates a definition of ourselves. So something happens, for example, as simple as in the schoolyard, and we're taunted. And then we feel in that moment a definition of, I'm not good enough. And then that inner chatter literally gets programmed in there. I mean, it's a part of us that's not good enough, that will forever just constantly remind us that we're just a loser.
Well, and it's so powerful because we were talking during the break that, you know, there's certain things that serve as triggers. And, you know, my personal experiences when I was growing up and I heard Frank Sinatra when I was 8 years old, you know, I knew the situation I was walking into with my father. And to this day, certain things will, in an instant, I'm like an 8-year-old kid that's so vulnerable and nervous and scared. And I actually have to say, turn that off, you know, because my stomach is nervous. But it's amazing how it puts us right in that situation.
Oh, totally. And that's such good awareness, at least, that you recognize that. And if people could, this is why that's part of the book, we want people to have that education that quick, when all of a sudden they do become that 5-year-old, that 8-year-old. And it's exactly what happens, Dan. They truly, that's the way the brain works. When that part is triggered, it's the neurons are firing like supersonic and taking you from one moment, you know, listening to Frank Sinatra in the present moment. As you say, isn't it amazing time travel? That takes you right back there in a second. You remember what you're wearing, how you were feeling, the terror or the fear or the scared or the defeat or whatever it is. The problem is that now then affects you in the current, in the now, in the moment. And then all of a sudden you pull back. People pull back, or they stop, or they just start distracting.
Talk a little bit, you know, to correct this problem. Certainly we've all read books on this, we've attended seminars, but the way I kind of look at, I don't want to compare you to The Secret, but the way I kind of look at your book, which I've read, it's kind of like The Secret on steroids. You know, The Secret tells you kind of what you're doing wrong, and it even tells you some of the how. But this really tells you the how of the how. You know, it breaks it down and says, here's what you need to do. And talk a little bit about PNRT. I know that's kind of a proprietary system you guys have come up with to be able to conquer this inner chatter, reprogram ourselves for success. And that stands for Progressive Neural Resolution Therapy.
Very good.
But talk a little bit about that.
Yes, that therapy was developed because there were so many, as you say, seminars, courses out there, books, everything to read that talks about change and wanting to change, or even in conventional, traditional therapies where you would talk with a therapist and it's like, you know, I want this to change in my life. And it's like, okay, go home and think something different, do something different. And cognitive behavioral therapy is based on that fact of like doing homework when you get home. Thinking something different. Remember, this is what you've been thinking. Okay, don't think that. Think something else. But as humans, it's like, okay, that sounds like a really good idea. But as soon as you get out the door, or as soon as you get into an argument with your husband or your wife or your children or somebody at work, you know, or anybody in your life, out the window it goes. Next thing you know, you're completely triggered, and again, you're back into that conversation. So that deeper thing that's pulling at them, PNRT is working on the neurons in your brain, where it stems from, where it's at the source, the root, to heal that trauma, to resolve that trauma so that it changes the brain. It's like the new neuroscience where the brain can change. And so that it takes it away permanently so that therefore that block is not in the way anymore. That pain is not, or that trigger, so that you don't go to that place.
You're finally off that cable to where you're free and you can embrace this new vision with passion and excitement.
I mean, what we liken it to is that, like you said, all of a sudden there's a part of you that at 8 years old experienced a trauma. And if you think about the old records we used to listen to, when there was a skip in the record, the needle would just get stuck there. And it would keep on turning, life keeps on going, but our needle is stuck at 8 years old, and we can't evolve in a certain area of our life at that point. And PNRT goes in there and actually rewires the brain so that it heals the skip, and then the needle can keep on going, and you can continue to live your life as you are today, as the adult you are today, rather than perceiving your life and living your life and making decisions from an 8-year-old perspective. Absolutely.
And one thing I really got out of the seminar today was you talked a lot about a defining moment, how everybody has this defining moment. We're going to take a quick break, and I want to talk a little bit more about the defining moment and maybe what your defining moment was, and how you can really help people really pinpoint that moment so they can get past it. More in a moment. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Come experience Nolan's. Savor award-winning steaks, Greek-style cuisine, fresh local seafood, and an extensive choice of wines. Whether you'd like to reserve the large private dining room, enjoy a meal on an outdoor deck, or rock the night away in our lounge, Nolan's, now celebrating 25 years of exceeding your expectations for casual fine dining, live entertainment, and dancing nightly.
When visiting Gulf Shores, Alabama, make sure to visit the Gulf Coast Zoo, home of the little zoo that could from Animal Planet. Get up close in our petting zoo. Enjoy our unique animal encounters. More than 300 monkeys, bears, reptiles, big cats, parrots, and more call a Gulf Coast home. Come on, go wild at the Alabama Gulf Coast Zoo.
Real estate today offers incredible opportunities, low prices, and extremely low interest rates. Hi, I'm Amy Norris from Amy Sells the Beach. Right now, there are opportunities in all areas. Our team can help you put your money to work finding your dream or investment property. And if you're looking to sell, no one can give you better exposure to buyers and make your property stand out. Experience matters when looking for opportunity. I'm Amy Norris. See why we're #1 at amysellsthebeach.com.
Thank you. Thanks for hanging with us. We were talking before the break about defining moments, and that's one thing, like I said, I really took out of the seminar today was how everybody does have this defining moment, or maybe several over their lives. And I was just curious what your defining moment was.
Well, for me, I would say, as you talked about, there's many. But for me, when I was 5, my father sent us to England for a year and a half, and so to me, as a child, 5, you think, I'm not lovable. I made that decision, I'm not lovable. And then how that dictated my life in so many areas, in relationships I chose, and in everything I did in my life. That was one of my defining moments.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And mine, I mean, I come from Russia, so ultimately, as an immigrant, my mother was always really encouraging me to do better and better. And one of the ways she did that was she'd invented this whole, there's comparison to another girl. Like another girl would have done this faster, another girl would have done this better, another girl would have had a higher mark. And in my mind, I made the definition of myself like I can never, ever, ever be good enough. And I'm always competing against this virtual, imaginary other girl. And so I spent my whole life really trying to prove to myself that I was good enough.
It's amazing how we do that. What's next for you? I mean, you guys have done so much. As I mentioned in the intro, your book became bestseller in a matter of hours. We had the seminar today that literally was standing room only. You have a successful business. What's the vision here? What's next? I think you girls could about conquer anything you set your mind to, but what's in the plans?
Well, one of the plans is that we really want therapists, psychotherapists, psychologists to be using this protocol for their patients, for their clients, because it will create permanent change for them. Instead of just talking about the problem for years and years and them trying to think of being good enough and better and deserving, well, now we could actually go and heal. So it's a level of inner child work that will truly heal. But we need therapists to be trained in this area, so that's because the book is going to create a demand for the general public reading it, knowing there is hope.
Yeah.
And we have a certification process for that now that's in place, and it's really amazing. And so the other thing that we obviously want is for people on a personal and professional level to find that personal freedom from their self-sabotage and be able to create the life that they love. And especially because I do so much work with corporations, I mean, to have managers and leaders be in a position where they're not, you know, fear managing and constantly just talking to their people, but to realize that there's these sabotaging parts running their team, and how can they work at a higher level to really break through that and achieve extraordinary success, I mean, beyond all measure.
I like that point that you brought up today about fear management, because it doesn't have the same effect that it did years ago. People today are like, so what, get rid of me. But, well, let me ask you, you know, here at Tuesdays with Dan, one thing that we try to do is give at least one success principle each episode, some advice out there to the listening audience. And obviously, when I have a very qualified entrepreneur such as yourselves, I wanted to know if for our viewers out there that have been kicked and beat down and they believe everything going on about the economy and it's hard, any advice you'd like to give our viewing audience?
Yeah, I mean, it's very simple, and that's create your own reality. Just be super vigilant about creating your own reality. Your vision, that which created your business in the first place, stop listening to everything else and just make it that you're living in the new economy, and create what the new economy is for you, and really stick to your core principles and your values and move forward with passion.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just to make sure that you're doing this, watch what comes out of your mouth.
That's right.
Hear that inner chatter, hear the voices, hear the conversations when you're on the phone with people. Write them down. I mean, it's horrifying sometimes to write down the negative things you're saying.
Beliefs.
But then when you see those beliefs, you'll be like, oh my goodness, this is what I'm constantly saying. You'll be able to be more aware of your beliefs that are coming out, your conversations, because they are truly creating your reality.
Yeah.
And say something different.
Yeah. Kind of like the Henry Ford model of whether you think you can or you think you can't.
Absolutely.
You're right. It becomes the reality.
It becomes a reality.
Well, we really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule and sitting down with us and really covering this. And, you know, I always liken the pattern that we got on to like a spider. You know, every day we get up, we have this, we go to work, we think these things. It's like a really fine filament that a spider leaves. And then just after several weeks or months of following that pattern, we've built something as strong as a steel binding cable. And then we get inspired, or we hear a CD or a speaker, and we get inspired to change our lives forever, and we jump ship. You know, we embrace this new thing. By a week or two, we get ripped off of that new pattern, and we're bound to the old one that we're not satisfied with. And certainly I think that what you gals have put together has really helped people get off of that cable and make the results stick. Again, the book is called Undermine: Discover the 7 Subconscious Beliefs That Sabotage Your Life and How We Can Overcome Them. And we're here with Tanya Chernova and Joanna Andros. And thank you so much for coming, guys. We really appreciate you sitting down with us.